All right, all right, all right, all right. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. How are we doing today? Good? TJ, good to see you. Morning, morning. It's the J Man. Ali Steele. Yeah, my guys. Any news? don't don't bait me into saying things I shouldn't be talking about. Morning, it looks bright and sunny there. It is. It is nice and bright and sunny today. It is nice and bright and sunny. It is great to see you all. Yes, the snow is almost melted. It's chilly. It's 5 to 10 degrees Celsius for you Celsius people, but it's nice and sunny and all of that. The intros, yeah, the snow is mostly gone. Ed, good day. C, Sai, good evening. Goodbye. Oh no. I know the intros are fun, but I'm not gonna bother Jevin too much. I have no idea how to do them myself, because I'm not at all creative in these areas. I have a favor to ask of all of you, so that I can do this live for as much time as possible. You see, obviously, there's like a street behind me and cars driving. I'm the only one here today, and there's a shipment for my business arriving. Okay, and outside this window, right there, if you see a large truck, and I mean like an 18-wheeler size truck, like a very big truck, maybe it's not an 18-wheeler, it might be like, but a big like shipping truck, moving type truck. If you see it and I don't notice it, please let me know, because then all I have to do is mute for a second as they come in, tell them where to put everything, like 2 minutes, and then I will keep going if I am not done. There's no truck there. That big green thing is an electrical box. This is an electrical box. This is a giant electrical box. They're shipping my they're shipping my my next Grenadier, my free Grenadier PR payments. So yeah, I just, I don't want to miss it. I need to show them where to put the truck. Anyway, yeah, not bulk baby oil. I hope not. Yeah, thank you. Just a small thing, and it should be noticeable. No more avian casualties as of now. It's nice and shiny. The windows reflecting well. But yeah, thank you. I was looking after his kids. Delivery. Truckload of videos called. Exactly. So I'm gonna get to this a little bit later, but I want to show you. We're gonna bring this back, but not how you think. Okay, we're gonna bring this back because I want to kind of talk through the depth chart, and I'll explain it. We're gonna bring back the maligned chart, and discuss it at the end of this video, towards the end of the video rather. As I just have a few things I want to do first, but I think we're gonna get into this in depth. I want to talk about this a little bit because it's different. This is set up differently. This is set up differently than before. So I want to talk it through, move things around, and see if we can figure this out. So yeah, I want to talk about obviously Ruben getting in. Talk about that's a good point. If we do get onto that scene, you guys aren't gonna be able to see out my window. You can kind of see this little thing. I feel like it should be noticeable, but you also see it drive behind me over that way too. No, but anyway, I'll probably try to notice myself regardless. A Bud Light? No. This is a Zevia. It's a Zevia. It's a soda, but it's not a soda. It's a Zevia. It's sweetened with stevia. Anyway, thank you. So yes, Ruben Amorim. Well, let's talk about it. Ruben Amorim has gotten started. Wants to get officially started on grass once he gets his work permit, which should be in the next day or two. And yeah, basically, I want to talk about what he's doing, talk about January targets, talk about some of the differences in his relationships with the players. Obviously, a big difference in there. Talk a little bit about Kobbie Mainoo, talk about January and all of that as well, and some people that we want to address. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's do it. Let's go. So obviously, first week, Ruben Amorim getting started on his first week. That big up platform is not for U.S. viewers only; it should be for everybody. I'd be surprised if it's blocked anywhere. But yes, so Ruben Amorim's first week. His first week, he actually joined. Obviously, he's there. He's meeting players. He's doing that. One of the things that I said in the video the other day is that he would be meeting with people like Darren Fletcher, who, with Darren Fletcher, who's been doing a lot of analytics, but there's a lot of technical staff, there's a lot of technical team, there's a lot of people there, and getting the data on the players, getting the information on the players, and going over them with this team and getting it all together. So, what are their fitness records like? What are their measurements like? All the things, all the tests, all the details that go into it. What are the things that they've analyzed, they're strong at, they're weak at, they're good at, they're bad at, all of those kind of details. Those are the kinds of discussions that they're going to have. And that they're going to be having this week. And I see that, James Ducker from Telegraph had put out a thing saying that, confirming that basically that he met with the technical team. And so they want to get those relationships kind of started, building up so we can understand what we have. Because this is a huge factor, right, in all of this. This is a huge factor in all of what we do now and what we do into the future. How does Ruben Amorim see our team? How does he see the players? What is Darren Fletcher's role? Well, he's essentially been an analyst, working on kind of the pathways and the bridge between the first team and the youth team as well. So looking at how are the players doing, gathering data, things like that. Where are their gaps in the team? Looking at the youth side of it. Who's ready to be stepping up? Who's ready to be fitting in? Who could potentially fill in for some of these things? All of that. And then putting that together and trying to help them kind of settle in and integrate. He's also good with meeting with new players and staff and people like that and helping them settle in. People really like him. People really like him. He's a serious person. And I mean that in a good way. He's a serious person. I think the story about him and the officials is a good one. Somebody, holding the line for United, basically, and really stepping up to be tough. To be tough is important. But that is Darren Fletcher. And people have thought, well, he's like some holdback from the coaching staff, but he's not. He has a much more important role. And I would just suggest this, that he was one of the individuals providing feedback to Jason Wilcox and others on his view of how things are as semi-external to the coaching staff. That obviously had them concerned and led to some of the changes that they're making. So that's all good. How excited are you? Very excited. Very excited. It's a good fixture list. Agreed. Yeah, it's actually pretty decent. So very excited there. So that's what he's doing this first week, getting to know everybody, getting to meet the players. I think that he had wanted to get some basic training in, but obviously cannot as of yet get out there. But yeah, there's a lot of players there, which was the nice part. That was something that we kind of recognized would be happening, is that there's a lot of players there during this break, right? A lot of players that we'd like to see. At some point later, you're going to mention the Xerxes rumors. He's not looking to leave anytime soon. There's nothing in him trying to leave right now. Nothing. Just make that very clear. There's nothing in him trying to leave right now. He's just arrived and just settled in, and he's still settling, and obviously, we'll see how it all goes. But it's far too soon to assume anything about Xerxes. Yeah. So Anyway, regardless of all of that, he's getting started meeting everybody, talking with the team, and starting to plan things out. So even though he's not training yet, he's certainly going to be looking at, evaluating, and understanding, okay, this is who's good at what, this is the strengths we have moving forward, and what we want to do when we set things up for the first time. And that's what he's essentially being focused on this week, aside from obviously settling in, but just getting prepared so when they can get on grass end of the week, maybe early next week, with the players who are there, plus whoever is set to return, then he'll know exactly, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, these are the players I want to use, this is how I want to set up, and at least can start to see that in person. So that's what he's working on now. It all doesn't particularly matter, but forming these relationships early is important. One of the things you can obviously see in his basic interaction with people is how different it is, right? How different he is in the way that he interacts with the players and the way that he builds relationship with the players. And, I shared some of it with regards to how his coaches work and all of that, and what they say about him. But his focus is on really building that trust between people, right? That trust between people. He's very warm, but very, I don't know how you would put this, very warm, but very, it's passionate, but it's strong. If you take some of the toxic Jose Mourinho traits out, I still give you that. The way that Jose, especially when he was younger, could be so endearing and have people who want to die for him, which he does have and still has to this day, but understanding at the same time. And that is what Ruben Amorim brings to the table, is somebody who can do that and who can foster those relationships, who can create that loyalty. And when you look at some of the comments, and you look at them slightly in contrast, you take someone like Bruno Fernandes talking about the connection with the players and all of that. You can easily draw your patterns in context where he's commenting on that being the difference, that there's a connection with the players, that there's communication with those players, that there's building of that relationship, that he always defends them, that he trusts them, that he, does everything to give them the best chance to succeed. And that doesn't say doesn't have, his tactical and his coaches and all that, but that's how he is as a person. And it's been something completely lacking. I mean, you can see it's been incredible. It's backed up a lot of stuff that I've been saying. Oh, there's this guy again. How funny. You can go again. It's been backing up a lot of the stuff that I've been saying, we've been hearing, about the players when you look at it. Casemiro really only posting for Van Nistelrooy, and you can see how different he was, and talking about the bond between him and Van Nistelrooy, and some of these other players, and excuse me, and how they felt together, and you can see there was almost more affection for Van Nistelrooy leaving than Ten Hag when you look at the way that players have talked about it. But regardless of that, it's obviously a huge contrast in the style and the type. And I think that's necessary. I think that at United, when you have such a big club and so much attention and so much focus, these are a lot of young people, and there's so much pressure. They need support. They need help. They need a friend, a leader in the truest sense of the word, to help them to make it, because the pressure can build too much, and you never ever want people to feel isolated and alone. No, you have not, Smokey. Hello, hi, Stuart. You will never get that. Everybody who's possibly there needs support beyond just a few players that the manager likes. And no truck. There wasn't a truck yet. A big truck. Big truck. Here's the thing when you take Ollie, right? Ollie was very good at that, actually. And I think it was one of the only reasons he had any success at all. is, yes, and creating leaders in the dressing room too, I think is very important. And you create that by fostering trust with players where you instill them with enough confidence that they feel like they can represent you on the pitch. Okay. Is there anybody that you just joined and didn't realize it was alive? It says it in the little corner, but I do understand. There was nobody during Ten Hag's tenure where you say that person was out there. They're leading as if they're Ten Hag on the pitch. You know, they're his guys. Sir Alex had them. Jose had them. Pep has them. You know, everybody has them who wins things as top managers. Someone who feels like they represent the manager on the pitch. I don't think Dalot. You know, maybe Dalot at a stretch, maybe, but I don't know, at times perhaps, but not in the same way. You know, Bruno could be that guy for somebody, but it really depends. But no, and it's quite a bit different. And that's what you need. That's what you need. It may just be me, but it always seemed that Ten Hag didn't want leaders to step up. Only manager didn't seem to foster it, at least tolerate it. Everyone was so quiet. That's how I felt. And I felt that under Ollie, we got that sometimes, and perhaps it was still lacking, you know, at times, but it is a big job. It is a huge job to do this, you know. I would say only Onana and De Ligt are ones most capable, maybe. But when you have a guy like Amorim, the personality he has, it's to create those people where you might not expect them to be, to bring it out of them. And that's man management, and that's encouragement, and that's what leaders do, is sometimes they bring it out of the people who aren't naturally that way. You know, Casemiro could be that type of person, even temporarily. You know, that is the representation of the manager. And, you know, they need to lead as if they're the managers on the pitch. Yeah, I think that is part of it. So you need to create that, because you need someone holding the standards in the dressing room. You need somebody doing all of those things. And when a lot of people can't do that, and when there's a lot of people who don't feel that connection, then they don't feel they'll have that trust. I mean, how many people would feel like they had the trust and the confidence and the inspiration? Bruno certainly can be a leader. You know, part of it is obviously if you start struggling as a player, then it's harder to be a leader. So you have to be successful to lead well too. There is a correctness in that. You know, leadership always fails if you stop being successful. You have to be right. You have to win. People have to have a reason to trust you as well as your personality. But I think this is where Amorim will make a big difference. And I think it's where he's inspired, and you can see it sporting the players that he trusts, the players that, not that he doesn't trust all of them, but there's specific players who make a difference and who tend to organize, to focus and all that. And that will build over time. But I think that's going to be the biggest difference. And, you know, and when you take some things like Kobbie Mainoo's comments, right, for example, Kobbie Mainoo in this interview with GQ magazine is totally correct. He did it with Cole Palmer. He said, you know, the trophy gives you hope, but it doesn't mean the season was a success. And obviously, this is almost directly in contrast to the comments from Ten Hag and continuously calling last season a success. And it kind of shows you the level of disagreement between the players and Ten Hag when it comes to how they see things, how they view things, how they do things, all of that, right? And you know, that they're sitting there in the trenches. I mean, honestly, like absolutely in the trenches every single day. Last season, working in these horrible games, these tough conditions, miserable, fighting, struggling, and you sit there and say, "Oh, it was all good. It was a success. You know, we're going to do it again, and then we'll end up there next year." You can imagine players sitting there saying, "Not fucking worth it. It's not worth it. We can't go through a season like that. I can't live through another season like that." You know, we'll talk about Rashford and everybody, yeah. we can't go through a season like that again. None of them are sitting there looking at it. And you can see someone like Kobbie, who's already injured, now coming back, already was covering huge donut gaps in the midfield, working way too hard, running too many distances, doing way too much. And you're like, no, the players aren't going to sit there saying, yeah, this is what we want. This is all good. And so the huge disagreements between Ten Hag and the players was ultimately a huge major factor in his downfall. And there was a lot of it. Not being on the same page as so many players, not getting along with them. And so I think it's the right time and the right person, obviously, for Ruben Amorim to come in at this point in time. Like I say, I think that I've changed my mind a few times over the last year, right? And there were times when I thought, okay, if you just bring in a coach who is good, who's just going to coach, who's not going to rock the boat and is just going to coach, then you can get something. And I think that may have been better, just someone who communicates well and all of that. But as time went on, for me, I definitely came around back to my thinking before, which is that I think that a strong personality is more important than anything else. Now, do you need to be good tactically? Do you need to have the right setup? Do you need to figure these things out? Of course. But when you're talking about a club as big as United, with the pressures of United, these players need to feel that. They need to feel that there's somebody as big who can shield them, who can protect them, who can lead them. And I don't think that we've had it. And I think that is where Ollie did a good job. I think that's where Ollie did a good job. I think that he led well there. He knew the pressures. And Van Nistelrooy probably, in this brief stint, that's what they liked about him. That personality, that understanding of what it means to be at United, all of that, of the size of the club, helped to take that and give them some confidence over the few games that he was here. But you need that all the time. And I think that, that's what makes the greatest managers. I mean, I've said before, like Pep, for all the tactical talk about him, is very, very strong as a personality and as a character. Incredibly strong on that thing. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't make mistakes and he's in a dick or something like that too, right? I'm sure he is. But he has an incredibly strong personality and character. And you can see in the way he talks to people how much he connects with players. And you can see that about every good manager that has ever really won things. And and so the communication really measures whether you can get through to somebody or not. So, I am extremely excited. I think it's as good as it gets. Someone like this. If you're not getting a Pep Guardiola, or a Klopp, then this is as good as it gets. I mean, I would say it's not that dissimilar to Klopp, in terms of like the type of personality and the prior accomplishments and things like that. I think it's more similar to a Klopp. Winning with a smaller team, doing some things with a team that has struggled or isn't expected to be as successful, and inspiring in that way. I think it's a better comparison to compare Amorim to someone like Klopp than it is to someone like Ten Hag in terms of their past, in terms of who they are, their accomplishments, their style, all those types of things. So that's my take on that. And I think that this is. It's obviously it's corny, to kind of talk about it too much. And it's of course he's the cunt to the right person. That's the thing that matters. It's to the right people. You want to be a dick to the right people, not to the wrong people. If you're, you want to save that, one of the things I will say, just the last kind of comment on this, not to be too philosophical on all of these things, is that a good leader has the right enemy, and the enemy is never your teammates. The enemy is always everybody else, and never your teammates, and never the people that you work with being the enemy. And that's what's important, is that you identify the right enemies and get them focused on that and not on each other. And that's one of the things where leadership often fails, is as soon as they start looking at each other, instead of being focused on overwhelming, of beating the opposition, then you lose. So yeah, Kobbie menu criticism. Which parts? What do you mean by that? But yeah, that's what's important, and that's what matters. You have to be a dick to the right people. Yeah, exactly. Us against them, always. You have to be a dick to the right people. And look, man management is treating people a bit differently. The guys who can take it, the guys who can't, the guys who need a softer touch, the guys who need all of that. So I'm very excited, and obviously the hype is overwhelming, and it's like it's shameless as all hell. Looking at him, oh, he's hugging of somebody, he's talking to somebody, like, oh my God, we're back and all of that. But I will maintain that we have a lot of good players at this club, a lot of immense talents. I mean, look at them. Look at the players that we have and the talents that we have, really. And what they need is that confidence. And as long as you have that, the bottom will never drop out so much. The bottom will never drop out so much as it has. We'll never fall to the levels that we were. And and because they will always have that confidence to play together, and bringing those young players in is such a big deal. People saying he can't play as an 8-3-4-3 because he's nonsense to me. It's total nonsense to me. I've watched a lot, and I know who it is. A young coach, mentally mature, a young team, perfectly balanced. And as well, I mean, the little things, like you look at the social media pressures and all of that. He's 39. I'm 32. I understand social media. I'm sure he does too. He's just a little bit older than me. His coaches are 29, 28 years old. They understand the modern atmosphere, the modern environment that players are in, probably better than anybody who's been there before. I would say that was, again, one of the advantages of guys like Kerkez, who didn't retire that long ago. It wasn't as bad when Kerkez stopped playing, but it did start to build, So there's a positive of youth in connecting and understanding what players are dealing with, going through, and everything that happens there as well. I cannot wait for this truck to arrive. Targets. I want to speak about targets. So yeah, I mean, it's really funny. Real briefly, James Ollie said some of our players aren't as good as they think they are. I agree, but I don't think it was targeted at people you think it's targeted at. So here's what's really funny. There's a guy who's probably watching. United Red Report does some of the aggregating, but I quite like him. So if you're here, hello. Who posted some stuff like maybe a month ago, something like that, about Eriksen potentially leaving in January, and a few different things about like targets and all of that. And a certain someone must have seeked it out to comment, that why are you posting all of this stuff? They don't know anything. Eriksen's not leaving, all that. And that same person's channel today is discussing and aggregating, a month later, some reports today about Eriksen potentially leaving in January. So, if you ever want to know why I have it's obvious as day that there's just a personal dislike of yours truly from certain people based off of who knows what, then it is what it is. But what have we talked about? We talked about in January, Gerard Branthwaite being still a strong target for United for the future, for that left center-back side. On our list of wing-backs, we've got Aït-Nouri, Kerkez, Miguel Gutierrez, etc., on there. They still are of interest. That there are potential, I've spoken about Antony potentially leaving if there's any kind of option, about Eriksen potentially leaving in January if there's any option for him to go, because again, his contract is expiring, and he has said he has not heard any talks. We will need to move players very likely in order to do things. We will need to move players on very likely to move, to spend with the extra expenses. But part of, again, as I mentioned before, the thought process as well is if we can even get if we can qualify for top 4, we can qualify for Champions League by bringing Amorim in, it's going to fund, the costs that it's been to do this. Now, we didn't pay anything for the coaches, which is quite nice. We don't really know the exact details of how the coaches who are leaving are being paid out. It may not all be in this year, so it may not be that much more expensive in order to, with the whole coaching changes. It may have ended up only costing us this season 12 to 13 million or something. We don't actually know all the details there in terms of how it's paid out. In order to spend in January, they will need to move some players and, significantly. And in a minute, we're going to go to depth and we're going to talk about the chart and all of that. But yes, these things remain. They're looking at who could we shift out. Because if you can move players on big wages like Eriksen, it frees up the money to potentially make signing on players of smaller wages, including their fees. If you can move players like Antony on big wages, again, even on loan, just taking the wages off and so savings can help us to spend in January if possible. If they can get deals for players that they want long-term and move them up to January, then they will do so. And then they will do so, and they will look at making those deals. And I think that one of the biggest things is the left back still. I still maintain that, even though Shaw is back for now. Malacia played for the under 21s, but it might take a long time. It might take a long time before, if ever, he is fit enough to play at the United level. Remember, these are very, very different levels. It's very, very different levels, being able to play for Manchester United, and there are concerns whether he ever will be at that level again. And even then, I'm not trying to say this to be insulting, Malacia was never starter quality for us when he played, not even close. He's quite weak going forward. Defensively, he was strong, was a good one-on-one defender, but he was never really that good going forward. He's not the answer at wingback for United. He may be depth at some point, but that's about it. So left back still continues to be of major focus. They still would like to, loaning him out in January is more likely that they would do something like that to see if he can get back up to fitness. So they're looking at who they could get gone between Antony, Eriksen, some other players who may not be here for the long term, and they may be needing to do that in terms of bringing somebody in. So, there's options, but the targets are as we know, and the plans are essentially as we know, in moving some players on and getting some more players to come in those positions. But what I want to do is go through the depth so we can kind of explore this and look at where we might, as a team, need players most of all in terms of starters, in terms of otherwise. Mount seems like the intense profile player. I'm like 100% he is. He absolutely is, and if he can stay fit, he will be a big part of plans. He is there's a very good couple spots for him that he could play in his team for sure. But United continue to look at this, and the reason I want to go through this depth is essentially this is what Amorim's going to be doing over the next few weeks to month anyway. Is looking and saying, okay, so you've got people for left wing back that you're looking at, guys like Kerkez, guys like Aitnouri, guys like Miguel Gutierrez, Alvaro potentially. Are they good enough? Do we need them? We've got guys in center back positions. You've got lists of players like Branthwaite, who is of interest. Now, understand he's been injured this season. He obviously, I think, is looking to leave. We have to keep a watchful eye on that. Obviously, he's got to play. If he's out the whole year, that would be like a giant red flag in terms of making a signing or something like that. But yeah, that matters. And then I think that, as well, he just got withdrawn from the England squad to come back and rehab. So, maybe not 100% fit enough for England. But, so he's looking at those players, at some of the young midfielders. I did want to make a comment. I think it was last summer, Phil and I were doing on our podcast. We were talking about how United have been scouting these young Croatian players. Does anybody remember that? If you've been watching the videos and the podcast for a long time, Phil and I spoke about this last summer. And we were talking about how United have been present at a tournament in Croatia, and they've been keeping an eye on a couple of young Croatian players. And I don't remember all of the names at that time, but obviously when you're talking about looking at young players, then it may not be right now, but for the future, right? It may not be now, but for the future. And some of them have already even moved. And so when we've talked about names like Mastantuonou, we've talked about names like Rig, who are not Croatian, obviously, but we've talked about some of those young players, and Nippon and all that, and it's sometimes it's for the future. Well, they were taking a look at a whole bunch of these young players, right? And Baturina was one, and then another was wanted by City. Another one went to Spurs, yeah, Vuskovic, and so they're looking at a bunch of them. And I've seen some reports today, and obviously, I like I said, I don't particularly remember the names. And I don't know if I can say 100%, yeah, oh, that's the guy. But, Dynamo Zagreb starlets Peter Sucic and Martin Baturina. And it's Graham Bailey. There was a couple other reports, Graham Bailey as well, saying that we're among a number of sides looking at them. So I think that there is... I think that there very much is some truth in this. And one of the things that we really do want to do... Oh boy. Sorry, I had opened up Twitter and I'm just seeing these David Coot videos now. What the fuck, man? This guy's lost his mind. These guys think they're celebrities. There's the truck. Look. Truck. Oh no, it's going away. Uh-oh. That's the truck though. Did you see it? That was the truck. Where did it go? They're asking for a refund. The Ineos truck has arrived. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Are they stuck? What's happening? Anyway, they might call me if maybe they're having trouble getting in or something, but give me a minute. Anyway, yeah, those are names that I would definitely keep in mind. That potentially for the future, these could be some more of the people that we're looking at. And really trying to expand on these young talents across Europe and across South America and all of that. We haven't really executed on doing that yet, but as we saw with someone like Kone, who looked really good until getting injured, there is a willingness to make some of those kinds of moves. There's a willingness to make some of those kinds of moves, and so hopefully we will see more of in the future. I still don't know who we'll get. Obviously, like I've linked us to a number of these young South Americans, as well as guys like Rig and Nippon and all that, as well as that we've been watching these guys. I don't know yet. I don't know yet who we might actually make a move for, but those are ones that I would definitely keep in mind. The context for the truck, guys, is I'm expecting a delivery, and I'm the only one here today, so I needed to mute for a minute and help them get in when they get here, because I knew it was going to happen during this video. But I needed to help them get in, and then I can continue doing the video and all that. But they might have gotten stuck. That's not the truck. That's Office Depot. So anyway, that's the context for the truck. So we're waiting to see it so that I can help them, but they're still parked over there. It seems like they're stuck and can't get in, so they might call me in a minute. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going for now on what we're doing, and if they call or something, I'll just have to take it to help them get in. Now I'm paranoid because now it's like they're sitting just out of sight, and I need them, and they haven't called or said anything, but they kind of, I don't know, how are they gonna get in here? Truck's gone. It's literally behind Ollie's photo. Okay, it's literally behind it over there. So yeah, anyway, let's move on. So I want to talk about depth. And let's pull up a chart. We're ready. Truck Saga 2024. 1 second. All right. Okay. They're yeah. Anyway, we're all good. They're delivering it now. They're gonna move everything in. So I'll keep this going. I'll just pop out in like 5-10 minutes to check, make sure it's all good there. What is it? Stop. Yeah, I switched to this at least so you could see it while we're doing this. So, so I want to explain first of all, this is just my opinion. My opinion is that ideally for any position, you have one player who you feel like is there solidly for 3 years. You know, that's going to be a good enough starter for 3 years. Like this is what you want ideally, right? And then you have 2 players who can be good depth for it, good rotation, or are a potential youth prospect that could be moving up into that role that may not be ready yet. Okay. Hi, Matthew. Good to see you, buddy. And then red is players who, you know, are leaving, not fit for purpose. And that may not be because they're bad, just age, things like that too. So those are factors in that. So this is how I see it right now, right? Starting with, you know, distracted. Let's start at the back. Let's start at the front, actually. On the this is supposed to be left, huh? I copied the box, so yeah, thank you for that. I copied the box, and this is supposed to be the left side, and over here, I think that, you know, there's unknowns into this balance of how all of these all of this is going to play out under Amorim, right? There could be players who work on the left or the right. We really don't know yet. But I think on the right, it's more certain who's like a right-sided player. On the right, I think Ahmad is a player that there's a lot of faith in, and is somebody that they, you know, that ideally people will stick around with for a long time. And you know, that hopefully will sign, will stay. And I think he's good enough to be a starter in this position in an Amorim system. He fits it very, very perfectly for, you know, the long term, for the next 3 years. I think he fits it really, really well. I think Bruno is someone who can play, who can be there, who can do that job when it suits. And there are going to be games, there's going to be matchups, there's going to be times, you know, when it does suit. And Anthony is someone I don't think fits there at all, and who will leave one way or another. So in sometimes, you know, you have Ahmad who can be a starter. So I feel, I look at that and say, okay, we don't need someone for green, but we probably need another winger who could potentially get in there. Bruno being yellow is that I don't think he'll be here for 3 years, for more than 3 years in the long term. I mean, he's only under contract for 2.5 more seasons. But it's also because he could be the green here. You know, he could. We don't know yet. He could be. These are evaluations we don't know yet. On this side, what type of player are we going to use, and balanced with this? What if Bruno is the starter on the right? You know, I'm just saying right now he's not under contract. We don't know the positions yet, but Ahmad makes the most sense right here. On this side, we don't know. It could very well just be Bruno right here. And then these three can be the options. And one of them might be an option on this side. You know, we don't really know that yet. But I look at, these are some of the answers that we have to get, that we don't know. These are some of the answers he's going to be looking at and saying, do I have is Rashi going to kick on, be as good as he can be, and fit in that position? Well, if so, then we do have someone who could be here for 3+ years. I think it'll be a runner on this side, and Ahmad and Bruno will start over here. Just personally, that's what I think will happen. Now that might change over time, but I think that's what's going to happen. And then Ahmad is someone who can sub on either side. That's what I think, but we'll see. In the striker position, we have, two prospects. Neither is good enough yet, right, to say that we're sure that they're going to be the right guy for the long term. But we have two good prospects, and then Cheeto Obi Martin could move up into that yellow yet. I don't think we'll buy anybody here, but this is something we'll see through the season. If they don't kick on, then we might be looking at a striker for next year. So by the end of the year, we might have a player in green here, we might have a player in green here, and this might all be good. Because we have a lot of players for these positions, right? That's kind of the key. We have a lot of players for these positions, but we just don't have anybody consistently yet proven. I do think we need a right-sided player as well. Either way, to bring somebody in there. Yeah, and Rashford could be coverage in the striker position. There's a lot of different ways that we could play here. So that will tell you, okay, this is kind of where we have to see how it goes, and we're unlikely to make a purchase. Here, if we can shift Antony, we'll likely look to make a purchase because Bruno could end up being over here, and then we really don't even have any other right-sided players. So I think this area has, not enough depth. And this area has maybe too much, but not enough confirmation of who is the guy. So that's where I think we'll focus on this right side. And that's sort of, as I've been hearing as well, that's tends to be the area you hear a little bit more about. Obviously, getting Ahmad under contract would make sense. And then in summer, you'd be looking at, well, if neither of these strikers really takes the role 100%, then you need to get somebody. But these guys are under contract for a long time. These guys are under contract for a long time. And, all of that. So that's what makes sense there. These are to be evaluated. These are to be evaluated. Here, we probably need one person by January or summer and to shift Antony on. If neither of these kick on, then we will likely go for a striker. That's my evaluation of it. So maybe I should do like a little like summary thing, like this, right? Like evaluated by summer. It's in black, but hold on. Here. Oh shit, I messed it up. Sorry. Evaluated by summer. Yeah, maybe we do something like that. Like our conclusions. Need one to replace Antony. Yeah. Let's do something like this. This should work. Just to give us like our takes on this. What do you think? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? What I'm trying to do with this, from our perspective. Obviously, it's just for fun, but it's to just kind of think this through. Try to center things, or it'll kill me. So we can think through the squad, what we've got, what we might need, all of that. Any reason for Rashi not being in green on the left side? Just because he's been out of form, and struggling, and things have been difficult, and he's been having a tough go of it. And I think that he needs to kick on if he's going to have a long-term place. And it's not outside the realm of possibility that he could, go on at some point. There just isn't. I love Rashford, and I'd love nothing more than him to easily take this by the throat and be in that position, but he needs to have a good second half of the season for us to feel that way about him. Now, we could have two greens between Rashford and Garnacho if they both kick on. That would be amazing, right? Left back. Obviously, this is another key area of need where I look at it and say, we've got Shaw, who's an injury problem, Harry Amas, who's not ready, Malacia, who will not ever be good enough to be in the green. And then Garnacho, it's an unknown. Are we going to try a winger at wing back? We don't know, right? We don't know. We don't actually know yet on those things. If Shaw were somehow magically healthy, he's in that green instantly. Amas could get there. So this is another probably big issue where, you know, we don't have anybody, like when you really look at it though, where it's even worse right now is we have nobody ready right now. We have one injured player in Shaw, Garnacho who's never played there, and Almas who isn't ready. So we don't really have anybody. So this is urgent need as of now. This is right now, I would evaluate it as an urgent need, right? That we need somebody who can play in this position. Does that make sense to you? Would you guys all agree with that? That this is an urgent need in terms of position? I think everybody would at this point know that, you know, we need a fucking left wing back more than anything else. I think everybody would agree there. So yeah. Then we take the left center back side. Now here's why I have it this way. Both Maguire and Lissandro can play as a left center back in a 3. Both of them can. Neither of them is ideal. Neither of them has necessarily the pace to cover the gaps, to cover the spaces, you know, to do that as a wide center back. We've seen that as a weakness at times. Both are good on the ball, Lissandro a bit better, but there is a weakness here. And I would not say that it is 100% ideal. I think we'll be fine for the season. I think we've got good players for the season. I don't think this is like we need somebody tomorrow, but I do think that in the long term, we may need an upgrade. What program? I'm doing this in Illustrator. So I think that, you know, long-term upgrade needed. Very likely that is the same thing. You know, that we need a potentially a long-term upgrade here to defend. It's not necessarily urgent. You could make it through the season, but it's not. I don't think we have the ideal, you know, at this spot yet. I don't think we have what we really need there at this point in time. Moving on to the center, I think we're good. Personally, I think we're good. I think De Ligt is a really, really strong central center back. I think both Maguire and Lissandro can do it. And then obviously on the left, Johnny Evans can do that job too, but he's surely going to retire at some point here soon. On the central center back side, I think it's fine. I think De Ligt has done very well. And I think that Maguire can do it well. I think Lissandro could do it well. I think we have a lot of players. Euro could, but I don't want to put him there because he's in the green on another position. And I think that Euro could, but I think that those 3 players all fit that quite well. Good coverage, replace, you know, Maguire eventually, you know, good coverage as of now. So I wouldn't say urgent. Like, I don't think this will be dealt with in the summer. Right? We don't think this in this coming summer that they're gonna do something on this one. Then on the right, I think Euro is great for it. He's young, and we'll see how he develops. Obviously, we need him to be healthy. We would have maybe a little bit of an issue here. De Ligt could cover it, but I don't think we have a great backup guy. So in Amorim's system, his central center back tends to step up rather than sweep. He tends to step up rather than sweep. So that's why I always put Euro as the right center back, because his central center back is more of a stepping up player than a sweeper. So I would keep him as the right side. So Euro, I think, is very clear here. I think, you know, depth needed at this position because we really only have one profile of his in the entire squad. All of De Ligt, Maguire, and Lissandro are all very aggressive center backs who like to attack. So I think we need depth here. Lindelof is the right profile, but not good enough and is likely leaving. So yeah, I think we need another person in this position. I think depth is needed here. Now, yeah, someone like Mazraoui or Dalot could fill in there, but I still think we need one more center back. Because at the end of the day, if Lindelof and Evans leave, we only have 4 for 3 positions, right? So I think we need 2 more center backs potentially. But they could be young. You know, they could be young. They could be They don't have to be a star at all, you know, or someone expensive. Yeah, and look, there's other options. If Shaw ends up playing left center back, if Mazraoui or Dalot could play right center back, that would obviously change that a little bit. Maguire has another year. So yeah, that's why I'm looking at, okay, well, if they leave, then we really start to need something here. So I would say this is urgent to me. This one is a little less urgent, but something needed there. So 2 is definitely potentially necessary. Give me 1 sec. I'm just going to check on this real quick. Sorry, I'm back now. Okay, at the right side, this is good. I'd rather look at this chair than listen to radio. The right side, I think, is great. Mazraoui, Dalot. The only question is, which would be solved by this. If you buy someone like, let me think about the name. If you buy someone like Mastantuono or Frimpong or something who can play on the right attack and at right wing back, I think it covers it. I think by adding a little depth here, you have enough here. And I think that would be fine. So I think this is solid depth right now. If you solve this problem, I think it even gives you another option here in certain days. I was just moving something. I'm just trying to be a little bit helpful. So, yeah. But like if you got a Quenda, for example, I think he solves this problem and this. You know, or a Frimpong. Like I think they'll beat both. Essentially, you don't need another 2 players. So I think it's okay. So I think we could say solid depth solved by right wing purchase. So these could kind of fall into the same gap. I think that would be okay. Would have been great if we kept Kumbuala. Well, maybe we could buy him back, you know? He does it both ways. He has these guys inverting and overlapping, so it really just depends. I mean, they could always, the same, if we buy a left-sided, you know, left footer, they could always just swap. Mazraoui could be our left side and somebody on the left could be our right side. You know, you never know. Look, but we're looking for ideal, right? We're looking for ideal for starting and depth. Not necessarily all going to happen all at once, but ideal. And some of it's in question. Some of these problems can be solved, you know, as we go. Garnacho right wing back, and no, Anthony. The problem with Anthony is he's bad. It's not like, you know, this is not a fit problem, you know. he's not good. That's the simplicity of it. Okay. Like he's just shit. Like, especially if you want to play him at wingback, you have to have crazy pace, physicality, all of that. How's he gonna do that? That's what his weakness is. He can't beat a defender. You know, Garnacho, I think, could play there because he can beat a defender. He can outpace people. He can run by them. That's the reason why it's a compliment. I put him in that potential. He doesn't have pace. He has a good first step. His long distance pace is terrible, and he cannot carry the ball with pace. he cannot carry the ball with pace at all. When he takes a quick first step, but if you're running a distance carrying it, he does this stupid like little like push the ball with his left foot thing like over and over and taking stutter steps that make him go at like half speed. It's horrible. Yeah. It's that's the problem. Attacking center mid. I want to talk this one. I think we're okay here. You know, I think opposed to some, I think Kobbie Mainoo can do an incredible job here. I think he can do an incredible job here. I think he's perfect for it. He's someone who can defend well and do the dirty work next to a defensive midfielder, but also someone who we've seen be excellent crash in the box. You think about Wolves, you think about and height is important if we look at this team, by the way, especially if we have someone like Bruno. You know, Mainoo Ugarte is not the biggest. Mazraoui's tall, Yoro's tall, De Ligt is pretty tall. A tall left-sided center back would be really good too. That would be good. But Mainoo can do a really good job here, crashing the box as that left-sided center mid. Same as that Sporting use now, that Amorim uses now. It's one of those mids is attacking, is crashing the box, is scoring goals, is doing that as well. We've seen that Kobbie Mainoo has that in his skill set. So it's doing some of the dirty works, but also linking up play and being good in the final third. And I think Kobbie is excellent there. I also think it suits Mason Mount to a T. Now, Mount could play in one of these positions as well. But I think this suits him so well if he can stay healthy. We've also seen that Casemiro, when he has some freedom to get forward, is actually quite good. You know, he can be very dynamic. He can hit some good passes. He can score some goals. He can get on set pieces. So Casemiro there, but he's not going to be there for that long. So Eriksen will likely leave. So I would say this is depending on Casemiro. That's my answer here. If Casemiro wants to go, or if they decide to move him on between January or summer, we need a midfielder there. We need another one. But that's also pending Mount's. I want to add even maybe an extra note for this. Plus youth too. I mean, this is the other aspect, is we've got all these young players where I feel like this is the kind of position that a lot of them are coming in through. You know, like trying to think like, you know, Kone could come in here, you know, Jace Fitzgerald, Fletcher, you know, there's a lot of potential young players who could come in here. So we'd have to see. I don't think it suits Bruno at all. It's a position where you don't take a lot of risks with the ball, where you do a lot of defensive work, where you carry the ball well and you kind of crash the box, but it's not a high risk passing position in how he used it at Sporting. The balance could change. If you go with defenders out wide, maybe you go a little more attacking in the middle. Think of McAllister type of player, yeah, but Mason Mount as well fits. On this side, in terms of the maybe the more defensive of the two, I think Ugarte is great. Casemiro's good backup. I think we need more. It's obvious we need to sign, I think, one more player, especially because Casemiro's kind of on the other side as well. Depending Casemiro, sign one. I think this is needed for depth, for sure, for rotation, depending on Casemiro. So, you know, this could be, if Casemiro stays, you may only need one midfielder. If Mount can stay healthy, you may need none, frankly. You may need none. But I would get somebody else for one of these positions. And so it kind of depends where they evaluate it as the best guy. And and so, you know, I would, if we're going to put it in some kind of order of kind of priority, you would go with number one would be a left back, right? Number two, I think this, personally, and then you would go I would say maybe a midfielder. And then something like that. That would be kind of the sequence that I would look at, that you may need the players in, at this point in time, and in terms of like the biggest needs, right? Striker, maybe like these are very much depending. This last one, that's why these are kind of like maybe number 5 is the wrong one. Is doing it some sort of like conditional. These are like potentially conditional, issues where if you may move them way up the list, okay, but they're going to be evaluated. I'm not going to put any of them up there because it's not at all guaranteed that we buy in either of these things right now, like at all. It's not guaranteed at all that we buy either one, because we also have Cheeto and all of that as well, and it's not about that. We've got 2. They're young. We're gonna have to see how they do. That's it. Before they will want to make that decision. I understand, but these are if you buy one, then you have to sell one of these. That's just a fact. If you go say, oh yeah, we need one, then you have to sell one of these. They're not going to do that yet. It's not happening. Like, got to be realistic about this. They're just not going to do that. That's why I think it's at best, it'll be a couple years, a year and a half before we buy another one, especially if you can make it work with goals here and here. That's the other thing. I would give it time. For sure. But this is the order that I see as just frankly realistic from evaluating all of this, and I do know they're tracking these, pretty extensively, in terms of players that you can get. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where they do, but this is what I would expect that we'll end up doing. I understand the issue with that is being brought up about striker, but we just bought one. And we bought one last summer. You're gonna need departures. If Rashford decides to leave, then sure, you could have somebody in there. There's obviously all of that, but it's very conditional, and I think we'll get to see what they can do scoring goals with. It doesn't matter. He's still a person. Whatever number you want to give him, he's still a person. He's still a person that is going to be on the pitch if he's playing. So you could do Rashford here, Ahmad here, Xerxes here, and you still wouldn't need a striker. It still doesn't do anything for you. And he's not really a creator. People have him backwards. He's not a 10. If you can dominate possession, then he's going to be around the box a lot, and helping to score goals and get in to those positions. But this is the reality of kind of the evaluation. Urgent, long-term upgrade, I think, is needed for sure. Potential in here, obviously, because of Casemiro and Eriksen and their ages. Some depth here. And then really it's going to depend on performance in that front line. Everything's going to depend on performance in that right time. He's not a 10 or nothing in this system. If we're dominating possession, his movement around the box, he will score goals and he will help others score goals. People are judging way too early on so many. And I'm not looking at it that way. I'm not looking at it on the basis of what has happened over the last 11 games that have been terrible in buying of players. So yeah, this is what we've got. This is the reality of it. We've spent a lot of money. You could even play games where you have Xerxes, Højlund, and Rashford if you need a lot of goals. If you need more depth and attack, there's a lot of different ways. The point is, there's a lot of different systems, but a lot of people are making overall evaluations that I think are inaccurate at this point in time. Just wait and see. We'll come back to it by the end of the year, and we'll see where we're at that point in time. But right now, they're not trying to buy another striker after they just bought those 2. They're not. It's not a priority right this point in time. Could we get there? Maybe. But remember, this is a project for the long haul, and continuing to try to shortcut it is not the answer. This is not a time when we're trying to shortcut this and win the league instantly. That was the problem that we've kept doing, is that we didn't we keep shortcutting it. So go ahead, buy Kane, and then he's gone in 2 years, and we still don't win anything because we haven't actually built the whole team up. There's a lot of young players in here. Euro is 19. You know, we're going to have to buy a left back. Under 23, under 23, under 23, under 23, under 23, under 23. Like, this is a young team. This is a very young team. It's going to take a few years. We don't need someone instantly. Give them time. If they don't get there, we'll buy a striker in 2026 to cap it off and to say, okay, we've got it. Yeah, De Ligt is 24, 25. But they're young. They are young, you know. There's a lot of young players. It's like 27 when we didn't conclude goalkeeper here because I think we're fine with Onana. But, you know, you have like 27-year-olds and you have a couple 25-year-olds and you have like a ton of under 23s. And it's a young team. It's going to get younger as Casemiro and Eriksen depart and Evans depart and Lindelof departs. It's a young team. And, you know, we need time. We need time. And the striker, a top striker, once we're ready to be actually creating a lot of chances, there's no way to judge right now. A top striker was going to do a lot less for us than everything else because our problems is not that we don't shoot well. We don't create anything. It's been a problem for 3 years. We don't create anything. When we start creating things, then we'll see if we need them or not. I know Gyökeres has scored a lot of goals for Sporting, but so have a lot of other players. They've scored a ton of goals. And they score a lot of goals. They spread those goals around. A lot of players score goals on that team. And that's what we should expect. That's what we should hope for. And that's what we should be aiming for. But this is the evaluation of where we're at now. These are the players that we're going to need. Any one of these could jump to the top of the list, just depending. You know, again, just depending. But as of now, these are the obvious needs. So I think between summer and January, that those will be the main areas of focus. Those will be the main areas of focus. If we don't, then like if we go, here's the point, right? We need these right now to function properly. You know, we need them. If you get Kerkez, you get a top left-sided center back. We need these to function properly. This could fall into the third or fourth position potentially. But yeah, we need these players to play properly. We never built a team when we brought in Zlatan or Cavani. It was a lot of shortcuts and we never ended up getting all the way there. So it doesn't necessarily do anything for us. Yeah. So the point on Branthwaite, and I think he's not the only one for sure, is that, you know, again, like Euro, I think ideally, because these are such attacking positions, your fullbacks as well as even your central center back, you really need someone who has pace and physicality to defend large spaces, potentially in a high line, running in the channels, and I don't think we have anybody for that right now. Yeah, big, tall, wide center backs. That's what you need for that. Now, yeah, do you want them to be better on the ball? Yeah, I have concerns with Branthwaite in terms of him not being the best on the ball in terms of progression. Ignacio, Sporting's left-sided center back, who we looked at before, is very good on the ball. So is Lissandro. And that is a concern. They're totally a valid concern, and why maybe he's not the right guy. But we'll see. We'll see there. I'm not a big fan of Diomande either. Whenever I watch him, he tends to make mistakes. Tends to make quite a number of mistakes, actually. So, yeah, that's where we're at now. I think this is a good way to look at it. yeah, I understand. You could say we getting some older players for, someone who's 33, 34, but I don't necessarily see the perfect player in that position to develop, and you don't want to, like I would take a Cavani if he was in there to play half of our games or 40% or something like that, but I'm not sure that you can do that. I'm not sure it's that purposeful or that probable at this point in time. My expectations, not Griezmann, not exactly the wrong person. My expectations for the season are that we can crawl back into Champions League position. I think we've got a good team. I think maybe top 5 if it can do it, hopefully, then it would work. But I think we could win Europa too. Why not? We've got a team that could do it. Yeah, Bastoni is a good position. I think winning Europa is probably the best bet right now. All right, it's been a long time. I got to wrap this up and get to some things that I got to do. So I'm going to end it here, but I will save this chart. I'll post it a little bit later, and then I'll probably make a short video on it tomorrow just to discuss it and post that. And then I'll start looking at, okay, who would be targets for each of these positions? That would be the next thing. We can do that again on a live where we'll look through like, okay, who are some of the names that we've got linked to this that are links, and who are the names that we hope that United would look at, break them down, talk about them, and then that would be fun. And then yeah, so that maybe will be the next step. Some stuff to do over the international break that'll keep things busy and interesting. So that'll be next. Looking now that we've decided, let's see what who might be good options for there. Okay, have a good one, and I will see you all later. Have a good rest of your day.